Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, lived an amazingly beautiful girl. Cinderella's mother had passed away a very long time ago. This is why her father had brought her up. One day, when Cinderella's father remarried, her life had changed dramatically. Her father's new wife and her two stepsisters had moved to Cinderella's house. Since the first time they met, her stepmother couldn't stand the sight of Cinderella. She and her two daughters were extremely jealous of Cinderella's beauty and kind heart. Cinderella's stepsisters were not beautiful as she was, and besides, they were rude and spoilt. One day, due to work reasons, Cinderella's father had to leave on a long journey. And that was the time when Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters turned her life into a living hell. While Cinderella was in the garden talking to her very beloved birds, her stepmother approached her.
As of today, you will live in the attic. You will do all the housework. Also, I don't want you walking around in these clothes.
Cinderella didn't know what to say. Helplessly, she did what she was told. She packed her stuff and moved to the attic. After that day, Cinderella began to do all the housework all on her own. She used to get very tired, but neither her stepmother or her stepsisters felt sorry for her.
Wipe the floor again. Can't you see it's still dusty? You haven't done the laundry. I have nothing proper to wear.
Cinderella had no friends other than the mice and the birds that used to come to her window. Due to the cold, secretly at night time, Cinderella would go downstairs to the chimney and warm up near the dying fire and fall asleep. As the days went on by, one day in the town, an announcement was made by the kingdom.
Our prince will be holding a ball at the castle. All the girls who are eligible for marriage are invited to this ball.
As soon as the stepsisters heard about this invitation, they ran home and told their mother.
You will be the most beautiful girls at the ball. The prince must pick one of you. That way we will all live in the palace, right, Mother? We must get some gowns and shoes for you girls. Move along, we're going shopping.
The stepmother and stepsisters left the house. Hearing all that was talked about, with a sad face, Cinderella stood there and watched. The preparations went on for days. Both the stepsisters had their gowns sewn. Every day they would go in front of the mirror and tell themselves, "We will be the most beautiful girls in the ball." Finally, the big day had arrived. The stepsisters had woken up very early that morning, and so they called Cinderella.
Cinderella, hurry and come here. Where have you been? Hurry and prepare our bath.
All day, Cinderella helped her stepsisters get ready.
Hey, brush it gently. You're going to pull it out.
Towards the evening, they had finished all their preparations for the ball.
You look beautiful, girls. Just beautiful.
Cinderella built up all her courage and asked her stepmother, "Can I come to the ball too, please?"
Who, you?
Yes, well, it says that all the young girls can come.
Is this your dress for the ball? The prince is looking for a wife, not for a maid, my dear. Come on, girls, let's not be late for the ball. And you make sure that you've finished all the chores before you go to bed.
Her stepmother and her stepsisters made their way to the castle. And all on her own at home, Cinderella began to cry. Why can't I go to the castle too? If my parents were here, none of this would have happened. Right at that moment, a very bright light appeared. At first, Cinderella did not understand what it was. She was staring at the light. Then suddenly, a beautiful fairy appeared in the middle of the light. My beautiful Cinderella, don't cry. You too will go to the ball at the castle. Cinderella could not believe her eyes. She asked in shock, Can I go? Just look at me. Do not worry. I'm here to help you. Now bring me a pumpkin and 7 mice. Cinderella could not understand why she wanted these things, but still she did as she was told. First, she went to the kitchen and grabbed a big pumpkin. Then she went to the attic, got her mice friends, and went down again. With her magic wand, the fairy turned the pumpkin into a beautiful horse carriage. Then she turned to the mice. One of them turned into the driver, and the other 6 of them turned into beautiful white horses. Amazed as she was, Cinderella was looking at the horse carriage. The fairy turned to her. When she touched her with the magic wand, Cinderella's old dress turned into a beautiful ball gown. And the slippers on her feet turned into beautiful glass shoes. I look like a princess. Now it is time to go to the ball, but don't forget, you must be home when the clock strikes 12, because by then everything will turn back to what they were. Cinderella listened to the fairy very carefully. Then she hopped on her carriage and started to ride towards the castle. Her mesmerizing carriage stopped in front of the castle. When Cinderella entered through the grand doors to the ballroom, all the eyes were on her. She looked so beautiful and elegant. Her stepmother and even her stepsisters could not stop looking at this beautiful lady. They, of course, could not recognize her. Suddenly, the prince appeared on the stairs. Cinderella really stood out amongst all the young women at the ball. The prince fell in love with the first sight of this beautiful young woman. With everyone watching curiously, he began walking down the stairs and slowly approached her. The stepsisters were very excited because the prince was coming towards them.
Ah, he's coming to me. Now he's coming to me.
But the prince passed on by and stopped in front of Cinderella.
Most beautiful young lady, would you please allow this dance to me?
Cinderella nodded politely. The prince and Cinderella began to dance amongst the curious looks of all the invitees. Cinderella was so captivated by the music and the dance, she felt like as if she and the prince were the only ones in the ballroom. They danced non-stop all night long. Of course, Cinderella could not feel how time had passed. At some point, the big clock caught her eye. It was almost midnight. Right at that moment, Cinderella remembered the fairy's warning. You must be home when the clock strikes 12, because by then everything will turn back to what they were. With a panic, Cinderella began to run and left the prince behind. When she was running down the stairs of the castle, she dropped one of her shoes, but she did not even have time to go back and collect it. When she ran further, the clock struck midnight and everything turned back to what they were before. When the prince went out after her, he spotted her shoe on the stairs.
Find the owner of this shoe, even if you have to get all the girls in the kingdom to try it. Just find her.
Cinderella came home breathless and went straight up to the attic. She started thinking about the night she had with the prince. She knew she had no chance, but still, she had fallen in love with him. It was almost impossible for the prince to find her, and even if he did, he would never recognize her. The prince's men went door to door to every house in the kingdom and looked for the young girl who owned this shoe. But the shoe did not fit any of these girls. In the end, the prince's men came by Cinderella's house. Cinderella was very happy to see the king's carriage in front of the house. Right when she was about to leave her room, her stepmother appeared at the door.
And where do you think you are going? You want to try the shoe too?
With a sarcastic laugh, the stepmother locked the door to the attic. No, please stop! Open the door, please!
How pathetic. What would the prince have in common with you?
The men first let the old skinny sister try the shoe, but it was too small for her feet.
Look how beautifully it fit my foot.
Then the younger chubby sister tried the shoe, but her chubby foot did not even get in the shoe.
Maybe if we tried it on my other foot?
Whatever they did, it just would not work. Finally, Cinderella's last try was to run to the window, but it was too high. So she began crying. Seeing her crying, her mice friends came next to her. My stepmom locked me in. She must have the key. One of the mice slipped underneath the door and ran downstairs. The stepmother was at the door with the prince's men.
Why don't you come tomorrow? Today they are a little tired. Their feet must be swollen.
The mouse jumped on the stepmother's skirt and, snatching the keys out of her pocket, ran upstairs. He slipped the keys under the door. Cinderella was very happy when she saw the key. Opening the door, she ran down as fast as she could.
How did you get out?
Please stop, don't go. I want to try the shoe too. The stepmother and her two daughters started to laugh hysterically.
Please shush. It is the prince's orders that every girl in the kingdom must try the shoe.
When Cinderella tried the shoe on, everybody was in shock because it fitted her perfectly.
Young lady, are you the owner of this shoe?
Cinderella nodded to confirm.
Please come to the palace with us.
Cinderella went to the castle with the prince's men, and they took her in front of the prince. Right when he looked in her eyes, the prince knew it was her who danced with him that night. He held her hands.
I finally found you, my princess. Would you marry me?
With teary eyes from happiness, she accepted the prince's offer. They got married and lived happily ever after. Once upon a time, in a land far away, lived a very sad witch. The reason for her sadness was that she would never have a child. However, if she had a child, she would be able to pass on her deep secrets and powers to her. And so she made up her mind. She would take away the first baby girl that was ever to be born and raise her as if it were hers, away from everything.
The magic of evil shall forever take over the world!
Not so far from where the witch lived a couple who made a living by farming. One day, the man was surprised with the amazing news. The lady gave the good news to her husband.
We're having a baby.
Unfortunately, their happiness didn't last very long. The young lady got very ill. As the days went on by, she began losing weight. If she didn't get well soon, she was going to lose the baby. Her husband tried every medicine and beneficial herb that there was, but couldn't cure her. The last doctor he went to told him that there was only one way that his wife would get well.
There is an evil-hearted witch. She's the only one that has this healing herb. She's your only help.
The man gathered all his courage and went over to the witch's castle and knocked on the door.
Fearlessly knocking on my door? You must have an important matter.
My wife is ill, and she's getting worse. I've heard you have the best remedy for such situations as ours.
Really? And why should I help you?
I beg you, please don't reject me. My wife is pregnant. If I don't heal her, I will lose them both.
After hearing his situation, the witch changed her mind and decided to help him.
If you say so, I'll help you.
The witch gave him the healing herb.
Give a piece of this herb's leaves to your wife every day. You will see that she will heal.
The young man was very happy now. He ran back home. His wife ate a piece of the leaves every day. She began to heal and gain the weight she had lost. But the herb the witch had given finished a few days later. The young lady's illness began all over again. This time round, it got worse in a shorter period of time. Having no choice, her husband knocked on the witch's door once again. The witch knew that he would be back. She took out a bag of seeds.
These are the seeds that healed your wife. You should get these seeds and plant them in your garden, and you will be able to save your wife and child. But I have one condition. If you have a baby girl, you will give her to me.
I can never accept such an offer.
Suit yourself.
The witch shut the door on his face. Sadly, the man returned back home. He wasn't able to tell anything to his wife. As the days went on by, the young lady got worse. The baby was now in danger. The young man had trouble sleeping now. If he didn't accept the witch's offer, he was going to lose both his wife and his baby. But if he accepted the offer and ended up having a baby boy, both his wife and son would survive. And so he made up his mind and headed to the witch's castle. He accepted her offer and went back home with the bag of seeds. He planted the seeds the witch had given him. The seeds grew in a very short period of time. The young man helped his wife eat the leaves he had grown. As the days went on by, his wife got better. She had fully recovered and gave birth to a healthy baby. But the young man was facing his fear now.
It's a beautiful baby girl.
The same day, they were having a big celebration at the king's palace. The queen had given birth to a baby boy. The king was very happy, because now after him, he had a prince that could lead the country. The people loved their good-hearted king and queen very much. No one would ever know that one day in the future, the lives of these two babies would meet. The husband and wife's happiness did not last very long. Right on that same day, the witch came and asked for the baby. The couple handed over their baby in tears and said their farewells.
Oh, my baby! Oh, baby!
She's mine now, but don't worry, I will take good care of her. And I will name her Rapunzel.
The witch took the baby to the tower. This tower was hidden in the deep forest. The witch went up the stairs to the very top of the tower. They arrived at the room on the top floor. The witch placed the baby in her crib.
Rapunzel, my beautiful baby.
Thinking that the witch was her mother, Rapunzel continued living her life in this tower. During daytime, she would go down the tower, play in the front yard, and at nighttime, she would go back up to her little room at the top of the tower. The witch never cut Rapunzel's golden hair. She brushed Rapunzel's hair every single day. The little girl liked this very much. Years had passed, Rapunzel had grown, and now she was a teenager. One day, the witch approached the tower and called out to Rapunzel.
Rapunzel, my daughter, let your golden hair down.
Rapunzel let her golden hair down. Her hair could reach the ground now.
Nice.
The witch went up the tower stairs, then stood at the top of the staircase and began to whisper magical words. Suddenly, the stairs began to crumble.
No spell in the world will ever be able to bring these stairs back again.
Watching all that was happening with wonder, Rapunzel knew that she could never get out of the tower again. The witch was using Rapunzel's hair to go down the tower every day, and in the evening, she would arrive at the bottom of the tower and call out to her.
Rapunzel! Rapunzel! Let your golden hair down, it's your mother!
After hearing her voice, Rapunzel would let her golden hair down. And so the witch would hold onto her hair and climb up.
Mother, why won't you allow me to leave the tower? Why do you keep me up here?
Oh, my darling girl, I love you so much. I'm just trying to protect you from the evil of the world.
Rapunzel spent all her days singing and talking to the birds that would visit her. Back at the king's palace, the prince that was born on the same day as Rapunzel had grown up and become a young man. Now the old and sick king wished that his son, the prince, would carry his father's throne, marry a princess and give him a grandchild. Although many princesses came by the palace, the prince couldn't see any of them as his beloved wife. In the end, the prince went on a long journey, hoping to find his real love. When he arrived at the corner of the forest where the tower was hidden, he asked the men,
I had never come to this forest before. Let's go through the forest. Maybe we'll find a shortcut. My prince, this forest is magical. It's said that whoever enters never gets out. You said it yourself. This might just be a rumor. Let's go and see for ourselves.
The prince and his men entered the forest. The prince was rather sure of himself, but his men not so much. A while later, the tower where Rapunzel lived appeared. Later, they heard the singing voice of Rapunzel.
La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la.
What a beautiful voice!
After making his way closer to the tower, the prince noticed Rapunzel singing. For a while, he watched her in admiration. Right at that moment, the witch appeared and yelled out to Rapunzel.
Rapunzel! Rapunzel, let your golden hair down.
Hearing the witch calling, Rapunzel let her beautiful golden hair down. And so the witch held on her hair and climbed up.
So, her name is Rapunzel.
The prince decided to stick around the tower for some time and watched Rapunzel. The witch climbed down Rapunzel's hair every morning, and at night climbed back up again.
Rapunzel! Rapunzel, let your golden hair down.
In the end, the prince gathered all his courage, and on a day where the witch wasn't present, he approached the tower and called out.
Rapunzel! Rapunzel!
This was the first time Rapunzel was hearing another voice other than her mother. At first, she was a little hesitant, but later she was very curious as to who this might be. And so she looked down from the window. She saw a young man looking at her from below.
Who are you? And how do you know my name?
I am the prince of this kingdom. I heard your amazing voice and I wanted to meet you.
I'm not allowed to speak to strangers. Please go away.
I mean no harm, I promise. Please come down so that we can talk.
I can't. There is no staircase.
Right that instant, Rapunzel saw her mother coming.
Hurry! You must get away from here. Mother shouldn't see you.
The prince quickly hid behind the trees. Once the witch reached the tower, she called out. And once Rapunzel let her golden hair down, she climbed up. The prince began visiting every day. They were now friends with Rapunzel, and she now knew that the prince meant no harm, and so she let her golden hair down. The prince grabbed onto her beautiful blonde hair and climbed up. Rapunzel was extremely excited. It was someone she had never seen before, standing right there in front of her.
Why is your mother holding you in prison in this tower?
Mother tells me that the world is filled with evil. She's trying to protect me.
But this is ridiculous. Why would a mother lock her daughter away in such place? Yes, it's true that there's evil out there, but there's also beauty amongst it all.
Rapunzel was curious to see if what the prince was saying was true, and all she ever wanted to do was see and get to know the world outside. At last, they made up their minds and wanted to run away together. That night, when the witch returned to the tower, she saw that Rapunzel had let her golden hair down.
Rapunzel saw me coming. She has let her hair down.
After climbing up the tower, what does she see? Rapunzel's hair cut and tied up on a piece of metal, but Rapunzel was nowhere to be seen. At that moment, she realized that Rapunzel had ran away. Rapunzel cut her own hair and hung it on a piece of metal. With the help of her hair, she and the prince both climbed down the tower.
Rapunzel! Rapunzel! How dare you betray me!
Meanwhile, the prince and Rapunzel left the magic forest behind. The story about the forest being magical was something the witch had made up, because she didn't want anyone finding Rapunzel. Rapunzel and the prince finally arrived at the palace. Taking Rapunzel with him, the prince approached the king and queen. And what does he see? The king standing in front of him, healthy as ever.
Father, you look very healthy. How did this happen?
A healing herb cured your father, my son. Let me see. What was it called? Oh, yes. Rapunzel.
Rapunzel?
The prince began telling all that had happened to him. Then the king told him that an old couple had given him the herb. Then he began telling the story about the evil-hearted witch and the harm she had caused to the old couple by taking their baby on the day she was born. the prince and Rapunzel made their way to the old couple's house. As soon as the lady saw this golden-haired girl, she knew it was her baby Rapunzel that was taken from her.
My daughter! Oh, finally, I have found you.
Listening to the true story from the beginning, Rapunzel now had reunited with her parents. Soon after, the prince and Rapunzel were married, and they lived happily ever after. So, what happened to the witch that was stuck in the tower? The king captured the witch and locked her up in the tower, and put guards at the bottom of the tower so that she couldn't escape. Along with the witch, her witchcraft and all her deepest secrets disappeared.